Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing kind of a unboxing and somewhat of a review, an installation review really, of GM's new Ultium Level 2 EV charger. And yes, I know it's not technically a charger, the charger's in the car, but I'm just going to call it a charger. So there are plenty of videos on YouTube that get into how to properly wire up these things to your circuit breaker and all the nitty-gritty of the electrical. And so I'm going to glaze over that mostly. So we're going to focus on things that are specific to installing this charger and just nuance and just details, because at the time of filming I could find almost no information on this specific charger. That's what this will be about, and eventually I will follow up with a second review on using this this device and the app, but that's going to be down the road when I actually have something to use it with. Alrighty, so this is again, this is GM's official level 2 charger. Picked this up at the local dealership. This is a pretty heavy box. It's almost 26 pounds. So if you, I would, initially I was looking online because a lot of times it's cheaper to buy these things online than directly from the dealership. But my dealership actually had these for the same price as all the other places did, and I didn't have to pay shipping. So a lot of places wanted $50 or $60 to ship this in because of its weight. So you may want to check locally. So let's open up the box. All right, so in the box here we've got a couple of templates, one for the charger and one for the little holster. So that's useful. You know how to mark the wall up. And we do also have all kinds of documentation, a user manual and a safety manual. Again, something that I was not able to find anything online. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I am planning on scanning this and providing a link in the video description, because if you're like me, sometimes you like to look at what's involved and what's going to be needed before you purchase a product. So I'll try to make that happen for you guys. All right, so here is the main part of the charger itself. And as you can see, we've got a standard NEMA 1450 plug if you want to use this with just a standard NEMA 1450 wall plug. However, we're going to be hardwiring this today, and the reason for that is that if you use this plug, you are limited to 9.6 kilowatt charging. And if you hardwire it, you can actually do 11.5 kilowatt charging. So some quick notes about that. You do need to have a 60 amp breaker, and at least the documentation recommends at least 6 gauge wiring. So make sure you've got that stuff available if you're going to be hardwiring it like I'm going to be. Also in the box is a neat little holster. So I think the idea there is you can stick the kind of like dock the end of the charging cord in there and then roll up the cable. And the documentation says there's 25 feet of cable, which that's pretty generous. So it looks like for the dock we've got a nice metal plate here with plenty of options for holes and mounts, and it looks like there's a couple security screws here on the bottom. So I guess the idea is loosen those and put the metal plate bracket up there first, and then this probably just snaps in like that. And it looks like the cord is reeled up in here, and the rest of it's in here. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at this a little bit closer. And my understanding is that this, if you're going to hardwire it, this plug does come off. And then there's a hole there that can be filled up with some sort of a plug. So let's look at the back of this bad boy. So we've got a similar design here on the back, a big metal plate. So this is the top of the unit, and this is the bottom. Looks like this is where they intend for the wiring to come through if it's mounting flush with the wall. So in other words, if you have a box already, an electrical box already mounted into the wall, you would want to line it up with that. And there's a plug that comes out there. In my case, I've got a concrete wall that I'm going to be mounting this to. So the wiring is going to come down in conduit on the wall. I was a little bit disappointed, and again, this would be nice to know, that there's nothing, if you're going to mount it flush on the wall, there's no way to pass the wire through the top here. There's a huge heat sink here. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but there's a huge heat sink in the top that takes up most of this void. And you know, there's no connections up, no area for connection up here. So in my case, what I'm going to be doing is routing the conduit where it kind of comes up and then, or comes down, I'm sorry, down the wall, curves up and goes into here where I can put the wires in there. And, you know, again, I'm not going to get into the electrical end of it too much. I'm not qualified to give you advice on electrical. I'm confident in what I'm doing today, but, you know, if you're hiring this out, the electrician may have a better way to handle that, but that's kind of my general plan. Looks like we've got some really big bolts here on the top and the bottom for this plate to come off of, and so we'll get into that in just a few minutes. And we'll take a closer look, once I'm ready to pull all this out, we'll take a closer look at the cords and everything else in the charger. And I'm not sure, have not looked through the documentation too much, if this is just a design aspect or if this is some sort of a light here. Actually, let's see what that is. Yeah, so it looks like there's different lights here that do different things depending on how it's charging and errors and things like that. So that's probably something we'll get into more on the second review when I have something to charge this with. Okay, for the next few minutes, I'm just going to have to do voiceover with the video because apparently I turned my microphone off for a few minutes. In this little side cardboard is a little pouch, a little toolkit, as you can see on the label here, and we've got a plug. This is going to go in the bottom of the unit when we take out the NEMA plug. So if you're hardwiring it, that's what that's going to be for. And it comes with a nice little screwdriver. Basically, it's one of these that will accept several different bits, which we'll get to here in a moment. And we've got a bag with some screws. These would be used to mount the unit to the wall if you were going to mount it to a standard studded wall. Of course, I'll be using some Tapcon screws for the concrete. And then we've got some little bits. These are pretty neat. One of them is just a standard T20 Torx security bit, as you can see. So nothing too special about that. But the other two are pretty neat. I've never seen these before. I'm sure they've been out there for years, but these seem to be Allen bits, but they look like they're made in such a way that that you could get at an Allen bolt from any angle. So these are pretty neat. It's nice of them to include them. I've never seen any quite like that. The screwdriver has a nice little magnet in it, so it's fairly decent quality screwdriver. And what you're going to see here is that for some reason they have just torqued these bolts on here, and I finally just gave up and got my impact, and they came right out after that. So no idea why those are on there that tight. No point in that I can see. And here's kind of what the bolts that hold the back plate onto the charger look like. You can just imagine the drill noises. So one of them has this little funny thing. It's still the same bolt as the other four, but I think it might be some sort of a security mount that you could pass a cable through. All right, so now the back plate will come off, and you can see this really big chunky heat sink that's made into the back of it. And something that's really important is that you write down or take a picture of the Bluetooth pairing code that's on the back of the unit. It's on the back of the edge of this part of the device. So make sure that you make a note of that so you don't have to pull it back off the wall when you go to pair it. All right, so we do need to go ahead and prep the charger for hardwiring. Of course, if you're not going to be hardwiring, you can skip this step. But there's a couple of T20 Torx screws down here on the bottom of the charger. So we'll use the included screwdriver to back those out. Looks like they are not captive screws, so be careful not to lose them. All right. And so there's a couple more T20 screws here and here. And they appear to be exactly the same as the two in the bottom, so it doesn't matter which goes where. The instructions say to use pliers to pull on these tabs here to pull it off. It looks like that's accurate. All right, looks like this side's finally coming loose. There it goes. Yeah, there's a weather seal on here that makes it very, very tight. So these wires here on this side are the plug for the plug here that we're going to be removing. And it looks like the smaller of the two Allen bits that they gave us is what fits those. I'm going to loosen this guy up here. And I guess this is why they given us these ones where you can get at it at an angle. Yep, that's exactly why. That's neat. Because otherwise you would not be able to get to that lug. So the third wire, the ground wire, is up here. Now we should be able to pull that wire out. And these are nice. They've got little clamps on the end to keep all the wires together, so that's a nice touch. And so it says we need to remove all 4 of these clamping screws, which we're going back to the T20s. And so there's those clamps out of the way. And there's a big nut in here that we need to remove. And now we can just pull this out. And actually, I've got you back around here on this side. Looks like there's a little zip tie here we'll want to snip. And this little plug needs to be removed. The board says, labels this plug as NEMA temp. So I guess it's some sort of temp sensor to make sure that this plug is not getting too hot. So that does need to come out. And now we should be able to wiggle this guy out carefully. So here's the plug, the little cover. Stick this in here. And it does have a nice weather seal, a washer on it. This is a really nice, really well built piece of equipment. So just snug that up, and we'll need to put these brackets back on. I suppose you don't have to put this other bracket on, but in my mind it'd be easier to keep it all together for future use. All right, I got those all snugged up. All right, and so a very important step that you don't want to forget is next to the plug down here on the main board is a little toggle switch, and you can see right now it's set to NEMA and we need to switch it to hardwire. If this is not done, you're still going to be limited to the lower charging rate. And they suggest a screwdriver to get in there. All right, the switch is switched. We do have a washer down, or a nut down here that we need to remove to pull this back cover off. That's going to be kind of a pain to get to, I can already tell. I'm just going to try to tap that loose. There we go. Flat blade screwdriver and a hammer. And that comes right out. All right. Do need to get this cord out of here so we can lift this guy out. All right, so I have the main bracket up on the wall now. It doesn't really say any specifics about how many fasteners you need to hold it to the wall. It shows 4 in the picture. I use 6 of these Tapcons. Obviously, there is a plethora of screws that you could take advantage, or screw holes that you could take advantage for this. This is also the part of the video where I remind you to consult your local electrical codes and certified electricians, and don't take anything that I've done as far as my layout as the electrical gospel here. I have full confidence in what I'm doing, but your results may vary. All right, so here comes the part I anticipate will be kind of a pain. Got a couple of these screws ready so that I can at least start snugging one up. This thing does weigh quite a bit, so just be careful. And again, this bit coming in handy since I can't quite get to that too well. So I'm not worried about theft. I'm just not going to put this little locking cable on this one, or cable lock. Alrighty, so we've got everything all wired up and snugged down on the existing lugs. So that's pretty much just put the wires back where we pulled them off from the NEMA plug. So that's done, and now we are ready to put all of this back together. Okay, for the little holster and cable holder, it's pretty much more of the same as far as the design goes. There's a couple of these T20 Torx bits on the bottom. And then this just slides off and we're left with a nice beefy metal bracket. All right, so we've got that bracket up on the wall. All right, so we've got somewhere to hang the cable now, and maybe a lot of the chargers have this feature, but I just thought this was cool. It'll snap right in there. Alrighty, that about does it. I am going to go ahead and flip the breaker and see if we need to let the magic smoke out. I'm not really sure if it's going to light up or beep or if it's going to do anything at all. I need to sit down and read the rest of the manual, I guess. All right, so it's doing something. I don't know what that means. All right, so according to the documentation, the fading in and out means that the power is on and no action required. Device is functional. So I guess that about does it. Like I said, I will scan the documentation and put a link in the video description if you want to read more about it. And I will have a follow-up review once I've had the opportunity to use it and pair it with the app and all that kind of stuff. Until then, we'll see you next time.